This is Charles A. Archer, and welcome to our series, The Influencers, where we introduce you to people who in society are affecting change. Hi, I'm Charles Archer, here for Everybody Paddles TV, EPTV, and today our guest is the New York City Public Advocate, Letitia James. Welcome, Public Advocate.
Thank you so much.
I'm very glad to have you here. I think it has been a big honor to have a female public advocate. Can you please share with us how has that made you feel as an African-American woman and someone who was born and raised in the city?
So the Office of Public Advocate, as you know, provides checks and balances on the mayor of the city of New York. We're the watchdog for government. We provide services to constituents who don't need an attorney, who don't need a lobbyist, individuals who basically need to get past the bureaucracy of government. And so as the first African-American woman who was elected citywide, it's an honor and a privilege to be in this role. I take this role very serious. And so that's why we are continuing to address the needs of countless number of New Yorkers and to raise the issues that New Yorkers care about.
Everybody Paddles is about people working together at the same time in the same direction towards the same goal. When you hear that whole concept about togetherness, what comes to mind for you?
So there's a phrase, where all boats, we in the same stream, and rising tides lift all boats.
Right.
But oftentimes when boats have holes in them, when individuals have mansions that have and yachts that have all of these waves, then sometimes these little boats oftentimes can go offshore, and sometimes they can even sink. And so I think it's really critically important that all boats share in the prosperity of this country. And it's unfortunate that almost half of New Yorkers in the city of New York, despite all of its riches, a significant number of them, and in fact 48% of all New Yorkers are living below the poverty level. It's unfortunate that tonight 60,000 New Yorkers will be living in our shelters, a third of them children, and most of those children will look like me. And so we've got to talk about the issue of income inequality, about poverty, about the feminization of poverty, how individuals are struggling to survive, about the crisis in affordable housing, and we need to talk about about solutions on moving the city forward.
Well, with the homeless issue, let's talk about that first. What do you think that the city as a whole can do? Because you alone are one piece of the larger puzzle. So what do you think the other pieces of the city of New York should be doing in order to help you reach that group of people? So
I'm working with the mayor of the city of New York as we go forward to build a housing plan in the city of New York. And the housing plan will address, again, this housing crisis in the city of New York. And what we really need to do is to preserve and maintain the housing stock that we have, strengthen our rent regulations, and build more affordable housing. Now, I know that when people say, where are you going to build it? In a city where we've run out of land, what we're going to see is more vertical buildings, more taller buildings. And people have to recognize that there is a crisis in the city of New York, and if we are to address some of the social ills, we're going to have to build affordable housing for the countless number of New Yorkers who unfortunately are living in our shelters, those who are doubling up and tripling up in their homes, and those who are just struggling to make ends meet. And all of us are going to have to be part of the solution.
When I've looked at what disenfranchised groups live in New York City, 20 years ago, a colleague and I founded Evelyn Douglas Center for Serving People in Need, where we support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities live with dignity, respect, and independence, something I think we all want.
Yes.
With the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act, what do you think New York City has done or should be doing to address the need of the disabled, not just the intellectual disabled, but the disabled community as a whole?
So as a city of New York, we were leaders with respect to making sure that our taxis address the disabled community. We need to do more, obviously, with respect to infrastructure and addressing the needs of the disabled, not only on the transit and MTA, but through our subways as well. And so what we need to do is provide for those people who are living with disabilities. Most recently, in my office, we sued a landlord who was violating the ADA because he, unfortunately, was refusing to repair an elevator, and there were a number of individuals who depended upon the elevator, and we were successful in that lawsuit. We also raised the issue to the mayor of the city of New York and issued a report about the number of people who were living with disabilities who were having barriers to, unfortunately were experiencing barriers to voting. And voting is a fundamental right, and there should not be barriers to voting. And so we brought that issue to the administration. We were about to litigate that issue, but we were able to reach a settlement with the administration. So those are just some of the issues that we have done in this office in the 16 months that we have been here. But we recognize that the American for Disabilities Act was an act so that all individuals, again, all rising votes should be at the table and should enjoy the prosperity of this country and should be part of the civic engagement.
I do recall seeing you during Hurricane Sandy actually out there working with the community and working with people. And I do know personally there was a big contingency of disabled, seniors, physically disabled individuals who could not evacuate. So I'm glad to hear that your office is definitely working with the city. When you think about education, which I know you're very passionate about, what could we be doing, or what can not just your office, but obviously city as a whole, do to reach a new demographic of individuals who should be thinking about extended education beyond high school in order to be a part of the political fabric of the city?
So one of the issues that we just left the city council, we had a stated meeting, and the speaker of the city council, as well as I, noted that in 2017, when a number of council members are going to be termed out, there will be a number of vacancies, and a number of those vacancies will be women. So we need to bring more women into the political family, if you will. We need to create a backbench of individuals who are willing to enter into the world of politics and recognize that politics is a way to improve the lives of others. Two, we need to educate individuals with regards to civics. We need to put civics back into the classroom. Three, we need to provide apprenticeships because, let's be honest, not all individuals are going to college.
Right.
And so we need to provide more technical education to the curriculum. We also need to prepare students for the 21st century and prepare them for technology and for the emerging industries such as startup companies in the city of New York and in this country. So we need to teach individuals how to code, applied math, applied science, and just regular science and mathematics as a whole. We need to make sure that all students can enter into this technology, can enter into this field, and know a lot about technology so that they can take advantage of these high-paying jobs.
When I look at what you just mentioned about education and preparation, what we've seen over the last couple of years, and I personally believe that this city was able to ward off higher unemployment rates because of mid and small businesses, etc. Where do you think that they play a role in sustaining this city and not just leaving it to larger entities?
Small businesses, as you know, are the backbone of our economy. And what we really need to do is continue to support small business. One of the number one challenges to small business is commercial rent. And increasingly, we're seeing a number of small business mom and pops close their doors because they cannot afford to pay rent. And the rents in the city of New York are subject to market forces. And so we really need to provide individual subsidies. We need to, again, create, by using the land use process, a way to create smaller footprints for smaller businesses to thrive and grow so that we can have specialized businesses in the city of New York, more specialized businesses in the city of New York, and mom and pops, as opposed to these franchises which are on each and every block, which are a necessity.
Right.
But at the same time, we would like to have some uniqueness in the city of New York.
Well, when you look at mid and small size agencies or organizations and companies, where can they go to get some infrastructure training, which is equally essential to being able to pay the rent?
So small businesses and then community-based organizations are really critical to providing services to New Yorkers. And so what we really need to do is provide leadership skills. We need all individuals know how to manage their funds. They need to train individuals, and they need management skills. As you know, we've lost a number of not-for-profits in the city of New York as a result of the inability to manage their affairs. And we need a leadership training in the city of New York, particularly SBS, Small Business Services, as well as EDC, Economic Development Corporation, should be in a position to provide leadership training to individuals who want to start not-for-profits, who want to start startup companies, just basically teaching them the importance of financial literacy.
In my latest book, Everybody Paddles, A Leader's Blueprint to Creating a Unified Team, I discuss team building, consensus, productive environments. How important is consensus for you in order to get your job as public advocate done?
First, let me congratulate you on your book. I understand it's a bestseller.
Oh, thank you very much.
And thank you for autographing my copy. So consensus building, that's what social media really is all about. It's consensus building. And so more and more you're seeing more individuals go to social media to give out, to spread their message and to build consensus around certain initiatives and certain campaigns and certain policies. And so it's really critically important that individuals establish common ground, not focus on what separates them, what differentiates them, but what we can agree upon together and moving the dial forward so that we can improve upon all the services that we have in the city of New York and uplift all individuals, and particularly address the issues that I mentioned earlier, and that is income inequality and the feminization of poverty.
When I look at New York State and New York City and politics as a whole across the country has a bad rap about working together, not just party lines, but gender lines, race lines, etc. What do you think that New York City does well in order bringing groups together? Because I think New York City is not, unsuccessful in making things happen here. But where else could they work to improve that level of changing people's impression of what politics is?
Listening. We need to listen. And we need to understand that we're all in this together and that we're all in the same boat. And I think oftentimes what you find is individuals go in with their, preconceptions, and really what we really simply need to do is stop and just listen to individuals, listen to their cries, listen to their problems, and recognize that we really are the same, despite the artificial barriers that separate individuals, and these artificial constructs such as race and gender. Gender is not an artificial construct, but the fact that there are constructs which separate us, but we all know that there are commonalities that join us together. And so we need to focus on housing. We need to focus on the environment. We need to focus on education. We need to focus on infrastructure. We need to focus on putting Americans back to work.
When we look at your extensive career and we look at women who also go into really high profile positions, as a lawyer, we both understand that there are more women going into law school, which allows them the flexibility to do a lot of things, including politics. Where do you see the future for public advocate Letitia James and other women in politics in this city?
So Letitia James at this point in time just wants to be the best public advocate in the history of the city of New York and wants to continue to focus on improving the lives of others in New York City. What we need are more women in politics. And you're right, politics has gotten a bad rap. It's gotten a bad rap because Washington, there's not much happening in Washington, all of the infighting. In the state of New York, you have a lot of individuals who are getting arrested and indicted. And in the city council, we're a progressive team which is moving forward. But there's 51 members, so it's a smaller body, and we try to extend and reach across party lines to make things happen. But it's because we have the leadership of the mayor of the city of New York, the speaker, of the controller, and the public advocate, who basically we tend to believe that government has a role to play in improving the lives of others, that government should be streamlined, that government can be more effective and efficient, and that government really should be there to address the needs of New Yorkers, and that as elected officials we should be there to serve and not to serve others and not to be served. And that's really critically important. And so for me, the lesson that I learn each and every day is how can I serve? How can I help someone? But before you can even help someone, you've got to listen to someone, and you've got to take a back seat, and you've got to swallow your pride.
When you just mentioned a couple really good points. When we think about New York City as a global city, it's kind of the city of the world. And when, people don't want to admit it, but it really is. When you think about that, and then you think about everything that's happening on the international front, where are the similarities that you see with what's going on here in this city and in this country and other countries around the world?
So we are privileged to be in this wonderful democracy, where all of us can exercise our First Amendment right, a right of free expression. But there are a number of individuals in this city and in this country who are suffering. And so what we really need to do is focus on a progressive agenda which will lift up all boats and put Americans back to work. And I think what we can all agree upon is that in this country what we need is an infrastructure bill. We need to put Americans back to work. We need to rebuild our roads, our bridges, our housing, our infrastructure in general. They're collapsing. And I think it would go a long way in improving the economics of a lot of families who are struggling. It will go a long way in expanding our middle class, which is shrinking, and it would go a long way in raising those who are living in poverty, in not only in this city but in this country. We really need to recognize that there are threads that tie all of us, and these are the ties that bind us.
I've had the opportunity to look at politics from a different lens, and when I look at what the future holds, I honestly believe that it's going to be a younger demographic, both men and women, but then I think there's going to be a big middle, and it's going to be predominantly women. You are number 2 in charge of this fantastic city. How does that make you feel?
So it makes me feel good, but I also am very humbled, and I also recognize that the New Yorkers have given me this incredible opportunity. I don't take it lightly each and every day, but I also empty the garbage each and every day. And so I realize that all I have to do is walk down the street, any street in the city of New York, and see the faces of New Yorkers, see their pain, see their struggle. All I have to do is talk to individuals who are struggling to make ends meet from paycheck to paycheck and recognize that we've got a lot of work to do. So I have no time to sit back and tap myself on the shoulders. What I need to do is roll up my sleeves and get to work.
It would behoove me not to ask this question, but we have a presidential election that is about to unfold. We have a potential or a Democratic candidate who is setting up shop in New York City.
In Brooklyn,
exactly. Where do you think that not just New York City plays a role in the discussion, but what do you think that a Hillary presidency would be like?
I think given her vast experience, she's so well positioned to be the next president and to make history. I want to be on the right side of history. I want to be on the right side of President Hillary Clinton. I think it's going to go a long way, particularly in little girls who know that they too can dream, and they can dream big, and they too can ascend to the office of President of the United States of America.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, and I also want to tell you that there are other little girls looking at you as well. Who are definitely looking at what you've done, and I'm really glad you were able to spend this time with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good.